Okay, so in the browser and using P5, we can play sounds. And so what we'll do is download a sound file and use P5 to load and play the sound file. And we need a special library for this, so it's not built into the default P5 library. Although I think it is linked in the editor. Yeah, it's already in the editor. So we can actually skip this first step because we're using the P5 editor, which has the sound library built in. But if you were to create a P5 sketch on your own website at some point, it's just good to reference the fact that with the sound library, actually, if we go ahead and look at the index.html again, you can see in the default editor for P5, there's actually two libraries. There's p5.js here, and then there's p5.sound here. And so it includes that by default, so we don't have to add it in. But if you were creating this, on your own page, you would need to go to the reference page and find the sound library here. So you can find, they have their own separate section where they publish their code. So we can skip this bit. So now we actually have to get some sounds to play. And so actually maybe I should, I have my desktop audio already plugged in here, so that's good. Okay, so these are just links to a few different websites where you can kind of create sounds for free. Freesound.org is a website where hobbyists upload their own sounds that they record, for fun or for projects or for whatever reason to use in films or animations or different projects. And so you can find a lot of stuff on here. It's kind of loading slowly, so we'll come back to it in a second. You can preview sounds on here without having an account, but you have to have an account to download. But you can create an account for free, and it has easily accessible Creative Commons licensing. So it's going kind of slow right now. Let's come back to it in a second. Free Music Archive is another place to find like full-length music. You can see it's royalty-free music. And I like using this one because it has very good organization. So if I want to find a specific type of music, I can go to genres and I can look for a specific kind of music that I want to use in my project. Maybe I'm looking for some classical music. And then I can even refine it further if I want to look for some chamber music. And then I can listen to these different samples. And there's like 16 pages of these, so it's a lot of different stuff. And we can go ahead and listen to it. It's kind of quiet. It's not really what I think of as chamber music. Let's see. It says crime background music. This is more. So that could be good if we want some dramatic background music. And so I can click on this download, and there you can see the Creative Commons licensing. And so if we want to know, this is attribution license. So if we want to use this in a project, we have to give attribution to the creator. And the nice thing about doing it here is that I can just save a link and then put that in the comments of my code. So that's how you can do attribution. You can also put it on the website or in different places, but I can just take, let's get a link to this specific track. And I can just copy that and then put it in my comments. So this is my sound example, 425, and then music used. Put a link here, and then if I want to put like, the artist name, there's some other information. So we can see what the artist is sort of requiring to use this music. So I'm allowed to share, I'm allowed to adapt. I just have to give credit to the artist and indicate if changes were made. And that's it. So that's Free Music Archive. Another website that is useful for creating sound effects and stuff is JFXer. This is a website where you can actually generate sound using an interface. It's sort of geared towards creating sounds for video games. It's very easy to use. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it because there's a lot of different parameters. But you can see the basic interface. Let me make it a little bit bigger. They have some kind of like default sounds, and you can see they're kind of geared towards like a video game sound. Like there's random, which is just random sounds, but then there's like pick up, coin, laser shoot, explosion, jump, select. But it generates different versions of these. So if I want to get like a cool laser for my game or my project, I can click on it and choose different ones. And I can also just get random sounds. And there's a lot of different parameters. I won't go over this in depth now, but if you have questions about how it works, I could talk about it more. But it's kind of fun to play with these different parameters and see what happens. Anyway, once we get something we like, it's kind of a nice explosion. If I like that, I can click export, and it'll download it to my downloads folder. So now I have some background music and I have a little explosion that I can use. Another site that I actually didn't link on here that's good to use is Open Game Art. They have a lot of sound and images and stuff as well. Let's see if we go to, yeah, you can go to browse and they have music and sound effects. And it's kind of similar. You can look for specific licenses and you can see the licenses for the different sounds. All right, let's go back to free sound. Okay, it looks like this is up. I'm gonna log in. Yeah. That's a good question. So for P5, I know you can use WAV or MP3. I think you can use OGG. Let's check the P5 reference and see. It'll probably tell us. So if I go, so remember the sound is its own library, so it's not in the basic reference, but if I go to libraries and go to P5 sound, these are all the different interfaces for sound in P5. And if we look at sound file, that'll probably tell us what type of file we can use. Oh, so we can actually figure out, let's see, what is this sound formats function do? Let's see. I don't see any specific. So it uses MP3 and OGG as a couple of basic examples. I'm sure it does WAV as well. Let's see if we can find the sound formats function and see what that does. Okay, so this sets the global sound formats. So I guess it's telling the browser what sounds you want to use, but I'm not sure. Okay, so MP3, WAV, and OGG. Those are kind of like some of the basic sound formats that you might use. So I don't know if it includes other formats, but you should be able to find stuff for those. Most of these sites will do MP3s. JFXer does waves because they're short files. You probably learned this in MMP 100, but just to quickly go over it, MP3 is like a highly compressed file, so the file size is small, but the quality isn't as good, and that's typically used for longer like songs. Song is usually like 2 to 3 minutes, and an MP3 file that's 2 to 3 minutes will probably be like between 3, 4, 5 megabytes. A WAV file is uncompressed, so it's very high quality, but the sound file is very large. So that's good for smaller sounds like the sound effects from JFXer. Those files are going to be really tiny because they're so short. But if you took a song that was like 3 minutes long, it would probably be like 30 megabytes or something like that. It would take a long time to load. OGG is kind of in the middle. It doesn't do lossy compression. It does a different style of compression that keeps the same quality, but the file size is much smaller. So it's actually a much better quality file format, but it's not supported across all the browsers. So you have to know that whatever you're making is going to be used in a modern browser if you want to use OGG. Those are kind of those three basics. You probably be fine with any of those. Yeah. It's pretty easy too if you record something, like if you record a voice memo on your iPhone, it's going to be like a M4A file, but you can convert that into an MP3 file pretty easily if you just like go to like, I think they actually have a link, yeah, an online file converter. You can go to one of these sites and just do it, or you can use Audacity or something like that. It's pretty easy to convert sound files. All right, let's see if we can actually get Freesound to work. It's going pretty slowly. I'm gonna log in and see if I can download a sound. It's still going pretty slow. So let's start using sound and we'll come back to it. It is kind of a slow website. It's usually not like that slow. Okay, so once we have some sounds, we have to actually put them in our project. And since we're using the web editor, we have to use the web editor interface. So I downloaded these two sounds. We can see them in my Chrome downloads bar. And if I click on here and I go to show in folder, we're going to see that they're inside my downloads folder. So that's fine as long as I know where they are. I can go here to my sketch files, and I could make a folder. I'm not going to add that many sounds, so I'm just going to put them in the main folder. So I'm going to say upload file, and I can click and go to downloads. Oops. And let me see if it'll let me do two at a time. Okay, so I selected both of those files, and it did, so that's pretty good. And you can see the music, the MP3 file is 2.7 megabytes. That's pretty good for a long music track. And my explosion is 45 kilobytes, which is kind of larger than I thought it would be, but it's not that bad for a short file. I don't know if this is broken or why it's not finishing. Let's just close it and hope it works. Okay, so we'll play the background music first. So this is like loading an image. We have to preload it so that the data is loaded into the browser memory before we try to play it. So I'm gonna make a new variable for my background music. I'll just call it BG music. And I'm just declaring the variable so that all the functions know the variable is there. So it's a global variable. And then I'm going to use my preload function, just like I do with an image, to load this track. And since it's not in a folder, I just need to get the track name. It's kind of long, so I'm going to go to rename and then just copy it and then go back to sketch. And so I'm going to say BG music gets load sound. So load sound instead of load image, and then a string with a path to the track. And then I have this music sound, so now I can just play it. I can say bg music.play, and now it's playing. So that's pretty cool, pretty easy. I may want to like control the music a little bit, so we could add something to start and stop. So let's use our keyboard event that we learned previously. So I can say function key pressed. And so this BG music is actually this thing called an object that we haven't really talked about much in this class, but it has like different parameters like the play function. It also has something called is, I can't remember if it's is paused or is playing. Let's check. Is playing. Oh, it has both. It has is playing or is paused. So we can see what the current state of the music is. So if we do a key press, let's check which key it is. So we can say if key code equals 32, which is our space bar, then we can pause our music. So we can say bg music.pause. Oops. Oops. So again, I have to click on the canvas to focus the canvas, but if I hit space, it pauses. But if I hit space again, it doesn't do anything. So what I can do now is I can ask if it's playing or not. So I can say if bg music that is playing. And this is a method, but it resolves to a true or false, to a Boolean. So it looks a little bit different than key is pressed, but it does kind of the same thing. So now we can say if the music is playing, then we want to pause the music. If it's not, so I'll say else bg music.play again. So now we have like a very simple music controller. So with pause, it resumes from where you stopped it. If you stop, then it goes back to the beginning. And you can also set the actual like where it's playing from using current time. So you can actually set the current time, I think. Oh, this just tells you the current time. Maybe jump. Yeah, so you can jump to a specific part of the sound if you want to change where it is. There's a bunch of other stuff we'll look at in a second. So that's how we can play a sound. So let's see. Oh yeah, we can. Okay, so we can play with some of the parameters of the sound. So we'll do that in this draw function. And so if we want to change the volume of the sound, we can start with that. We can map our mouse or a slider or something like that to our sound. So let's just use the mouse for now. So I'll use mouse Y and I'll map that to the volume of the sound. So let's get the let's just call this V for volume, and we'll map the mouse Y, and we'll map it we'll invert it so that the top is louder. So we'll map it from height, which is the bottom of the canvas, to 0. So 0 will be the loudest. And then the volume, we're going to do 0 to 1. So 1 is the loudest volume. Oops. And 0 is the quietest volume. And then we can take our BG music and say, let me check the reference, set volume. So BG music.set volume, and then put V in there. So we can control the volume. Let's visualize that so it doesn't look weird. So we know the value of mouse Y. Obviously, we know that all the time. So let's just draw a rectangle. Let's do a fill. Do plumb. And we can do a fill 0 on X, mouse Y on Y, to width on X, and height on Y. I think that should do it. Let's say no stroke. Oh, but if I go below 0, then the volume inverts and it's not going to accept a negative number, so it's going to give me the absolute. So let's clamp So we can add true as the last parameter in our map function so that it won't go beyond the bounds. And so now that should fix that issue. Yeah, so now I can go all the way down here. So that's kind of fun. So we can change other things like the panning. So let's say variable p equals map. Let's use mouse x. And so this one, we're going to map the left side of the canvas to the right side of the canvas for the pan, which is the left speaker versus right speaker. So 0 is the left side of the canvas. Width is the right side of the canvas, but then we want the middle to be 0. So we're going to go from -1, which is all the way in the left speaker, to 1, which is all the way in the right speaker. And let's do VG music dot set. I assume this is pan, but let's just make sure. No, it's okay. It's not set. It's just pan by itself. Some of these functions are kind of weird, but let's say pan p, and let's visualize that. So let's do a stroke blue and stroke weight 2, and we'll just do a line in the middle. So we'll do a line from mouse X and from 0 and mouse X to height. So we'll just draw a line through the whole sketch. I don't know if these speakers have stereo panning. But if you tried that with headphones, you'd probably be able to tell the difference. Doesn't really seem like it's changing anything, but I don't really know where the speakers. Oh, is it coming out of the projector? Yeah, so it's not going to be easy to tell because we're all. You can tell? Yeah, because you're sitting right under it. Yeah. Cool. So one last thing we can do is the rate. There's a few other things we can do, but let's just do the rate because that's kind of fun. So that's like how fast it's playing. You have to be a little bit careful with that because if you set the rate to 0, it'll crash the browser because it won't be moving, and so it'll create a Stack Overflow. But let's do something. How will we do this? We've already used X and Y. So let's use our keys and let's use a value and change the rate that way. So I'm going to make a global variable and call this sound rate. And we'll start it at 1. And then I'm going to say if key is down, and we'll use the up arrow. So let's go to keycodes.info or keycode.info. And the up arrow is 38, down arrow is 40. So if we hit the up arrow, let's increase the sound rate, say plus equals 0.1. And if key is down 40, and it's good to put a comment here actually, because there's no way, if you don't know what 40 means, you won't understand what this code is doing. So this is the up arrow, down arrow. And then sound rate plus or minus equals 0.1. But we have to be careful because we can't let the sound rate go below 0. So we have to say if sound rate is less than 0. There's a few different ways to do this, but sound rate equals 0.1. So before we apply the sound rate to the sound, we just want to check and make sure we can't go below 0. Okay, so now let's say bg music dot rate is the sound rate. And let's also put the sound rate on the screen so we can see what it is. So let's say text sound rate. I'll do a bigger text size 50. So text sound rate 1050. Okay, so right now it's 1. But I have to click to focus the canvas. That's too fast. Okay, so we need to change this interval a little bit. Let's do 0.01 because it's moving too fast. Still moving really fast. But so you can see when I'm holding the key down, because I'm using key is down as opposed to key pressed, it's happening the whole time the key is down. So as long as the key is down, I'm lowering the sound rate. And I shouldn't be able to go below. Oh, you know what? I did less than 0, which is dumb because it could be 0. So I need to do less than or equal to 0. Let's try it now. There we go. Kind of fun. So that could be a fun thing to give your user to play with. Yeah. So wait, what? Oh, yeah. I mean, there is. In theory, you can do anything. You could change. Let's see if there's a pitch. Okay, so you can change the rate. I don't see anything on pitch. Let's see. There's some effects, but I don't see anything in there. I don't see anything specific. I mean, you can do, like, you can actually access the audio data, and it doesn't look like there's a specific P5 way to do it, but you can actually play with the sound file itself using JavaScript, and you could probably do it. Let me just Google it and see. Yeah. Tone.js is a much more sophisticated sound library for JavaScript that I use for some of my projects that will let you do that a lot easier. Yes, yeah. Let's do that. Let's show that real quick, and then I think that'll be good for today. So yeah, if I want to make another sound, so where's the other sound? So I also have this explosion sound. So let's say every time I press a key, I want to play the explosion sound. So let's make another variable. I'll just call this explosion sound. And so we need to load it first. We're going to load sound, and this is just called explosion think it has a number 3 dot wave. And so in my key pressed, if I hit space, that'll pause the music. So let's choose a different key for the explosion sound. Let's say if key code equals, I'll do enter, so that's 13. Then we'll say explosion sound dot play. And this is actually a good chance to go over another aspect of how the sound library works. So let's test this first. Oh, it's not running. I'm getting an error. Huh. Maybe it's frozen. Oh, it says there is no explosion file. Did I spell this wrong? Oh yeah, it has a space. I thought it had a space in it. Oh, you know what? It probably doesn't. Well, yeah, I don't know. Okay. Okay, so now if I hit enter, I get that explosion sound. And so one thing, if you're gonna play a sound multiple times, so if you listen when I hit enter a couple times before the sound ends, it restarts the sound. So it doesn't keep playing both sounds. But you can change it to play both sounds on top of each other, or the same sound on top of itself. And that's using the play mode function. So the default for the play mode is restart, and so it'll restart the sample. There's also sustain or until done. Sustain is going to keep playing the sample and play a new copy of it. So if I go here and I say explosion, and I'm doing this in setup because I only want to do it once, dot play mode, and I'll put sustain. So if I want it to do if I want it to restart, I don't have to change anything. That's the default. If I want it to sustain, then I have to put sustain. It's kind of hard to tell with this sound, but you can hear they're overlapping now. So it's kind of a short sound because it's a little bit hard to tell, but that's what's happening. Maybe we can see if freesound is working. We can download a better sound. Okay, freesound is logged in. I'm trying to remember. Oh, I did like a chicken sound for this in the example. It's a pretty good one. Although maybe we need something longer. It's maybe too long. That's a good one. All right. So on freesound, we could get this sound. It has all the info here. So it's a WAV file. It's 96 kilohertz, which is pretty high quality recording. And it's Creative Commons 0, which means you don't have to give attribution or anything. But it's still good to save it. So even if I'm not going to give attribution, I may forget where I got it from. So it's a good idea to put it just a note and say chicken sound, and just put this in my comments. So now I can download this sound. And freesound, the sound names are always really long because it shows the ID of the sound and the user and the sound file. So I'm going to rename this so I don't have to type out that whole thing. So I'm going to rename this chicken. And then I need to upload it to P5. So I can go back here, go to upload file, click on here, get chicken. And so let's listen to the chicken sound. So I'll say variable chicken sound. chicken sound, if I can spell. Chicken, and then I have to load this. Chicken sound equals load sound. Chicken dot wave. And so now I'll choose a different key for the chicken sound. So I'll say if key code equals, and I'll just use what? For A, okay. 65 chicken sound dot play. And I'll do the same thing. So I'll change this one to sustain. So I'll copy this and paste and change this to chicken sound. So you can hear it plays it's over itself. Whereas if I change it to restart, which is the default, so I don't actually need to do that, but just to show that. So then every time I play it, it starts at the beginning. Although this one has like a big pause at the beginning, so it's kind of hard to hear that. But I could edit that out if I wanted to in Audacity. But that's the basic idea. There's a bunch of other stuff that you can do with sound. So I would definitely look at the sound reference, which is all under its own section, the sound library. There's a lot of other stuff in here, like you can add effects. There's like synthesizers you can add. You can use the microphone. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with sound if you're interested. And I think there's some examples as well. If we go to libraries, sound, I guess the examples are just like in the reference. I thought there might be more. Let's see if there's. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of different examples under sound here. So yeah, there might be some cool stuff to check out in here. And yeah, let's see. So since we covered sound and keyboard stuff today, on Wednesday, I'll just do a little demo using sound and visuals to kind of go over what that assignment should look like, the assignment 11. And then we can use most of the class on Wednesday for in-class work time. Let me stop recording.